Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm super excited because I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up and also kind of my thoughts on my May TBR because we're doing something slightly different. So if you'd be interested to listen to my thoughts really quickly on the books that I read and also the ones that I did not read for the month of April, and also kind of what my thoughts are going into the month of May, then go ahead and keep watching. So I have, let me see if I can lift these up, a chunk of books that I had on my TBR. I was definitely very optimistic for the month of April as to what books I wanted to potentially choose from to read. This was not ever thought to be me finishing these books, but I wanted to have a good group to pull from. So we have all of these books that I was trying to read in the month of April. So we're going to quickly go through them, give you my thoughts on if I read them, what my ranking was, did I like them, and all of that. So the first book we're going to pick up, Twisted Lies. I have a video of me reading this. I ended up really enjoying this. This one is the last book of the Twisted Lies series. This has Christian and Stella, and this is kind of like a little dabble into a morally gray character. Christian is just definitely someone that he has no problems, you know, breaking the law, doing things that he's not supposed to be doing if he in his mind thinks that it's the right thing to do, regardless of whether it's good or bad to like the public. He definitely doesn't, he's gonna do what he needs to get done, basically. So did enjoy this. This book I ended up giving, I'm pulling up my list, I ended up giving this 4.5. Really enjoyed it. Really had a fun time reading this book. The next book that we have is The Retribution of Mara Dyer. This also is in a video. This was the last book of the Mara Dyer series. I did not enjoy this. This is going to be a book I will be unhauling because I did not think I was going to enjoy this book anyways, because I didn't really enjoy the other books in the series. And so this I ended up giving 3 stars. I just really felt like there were a bunch of holes, like things that never got explained at the end of this trilogy. And it just wasn't a good book in my mind. Maybe if I was the age bracket that this book was supposed to be made for, maybe I would like it more, but not my favorites. Definitely going to be unhauling this. It was just kind of like a book. Curse for True Love. This one is also in a video. I did all 3 of these books in the same video, but this is the last book of the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and this I ended up giving 4 stars. This was a wrap-up of Evangeline and Jax and Apollo and kind of their love story. Evangeline and Jax, or Evangeline and Apollo, like you were trying to figure out who you end up, you know, she falls in love with, which this ended with the correct person, and it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I thought the second book of the trilogy was definitely much better than this book was, but it wasn't as disappointing as I anticipated. So 4 stars. It was good. And then we have Belladonna. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This was book 1 of the Belladonna. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy. There's Foxglove is book 2, and then I think book 3 is coming out within the next few months, or it's coming out in 2024 at some point. I gave this 4 stars. This was Cigna and Death, and it was kind of their like romance, but it was kind of a romance subplot, but it was mostly like the mystery of what's happening to the family members and the people who get close to Cigna and how they end up, you know, dying, like what's going on. And so it's a mystery to find out, you know, how this one person died and then why this other person looks like they're getting really, really sick and why they might be dying. So good, 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. And then these 2 we're going to talk about together. So we have Saving 6 and Redeeming 6. I gave this 4 stars. I gave this 4.25. I feel like this book, the thing that I have with this book is I really enjoyed Binding and Keeping 13. I gave both of those 5 stars. But because this is kind of going back to the beginning story-wise of the Binding and Keeping 13 like story, because Shannon in Binding and Keeping 13 is the sister of Joey, which is in these 2 books. So you get a feel for what happened in the first book, but from Joey's perspective. And so because of that, I felt like I was just anticipating internally like things that were about to happen and trying to figure out timeline, like, is this when this piece happens? And so it kind of took me out of the story, and I didn't feel as connected to Joey and Aoife as I originally thought I would. But I did say, I do think after we get done with saving 6 and go into redeeming 6, this is where I feel the shift from the Binding and Keeping 13 storyline, and then this more focus on kind of what's actually going on with Joey that you do not get in Binding and Keeping 13. So that's why this one was 4.25, but still really did enjoy it. I really did like Joey and Aoife, and I was glad I finally got this done. And then we have Vampire Diaries. I DNF'd. This is book 1 and book 2 of the Vampire Diaries story. I ended up DNFing The Awakening, which is book 1, at 77%. I could not get over it. I have a kind of my thoughts on this book is in the video that I'll try to link above, but I did not care for this one bit. Actually, I don't think that video is going to come out. I have a video coming out of me finishing my TBR, and I talk in depth about this book, but I did not like it. I DNF'd it at 77%. Maybe I'll pick it up again in September, and I'll try to separate my thoughts from book personality and TV show personality, but I couldn't separate them when I was trying to read this time around. So this one DNF'd, but maybe it'll be like a soft DNF. Maybe I'll pick it up again in the future. And then one of the books that I did not finish was Hellbent. I did want to try to finish this or to read this because I did read Ninth House last month. I was planning on getting this on audiobook, and I just didn't have a chance to actually do that in April. I just could not get that book read. So this I will read again, or I will read this in the future. I just could not get it read in April. And then we have Mistborn. This has been on my list of things I wanted to read ever since 2023, and I just can't bring myself to read this book. So did not read it again this month. Maybe I'll read it next month. Highly doubt it, but we're gonna attempt it. Maybe I'll get a wild hair and decide I want to finally pick this up again. But did not read. Archer's Voice. I do have a video on this. This is a part of my videos of will these books make me cry. This, loved. I loved Archer. I loved Bree. And I ended up giving this book 4.75. This was right on the cusp of a 5-star. It didn't give me that 5-star feel. Loved everything else. I really enjoyed the relationship and the communication that Bree had with Archer, where no one else in the town or in his family ever really tried to make the attempt to communicate to him. Like, they just brushed Archer aside, and I really did enjoy seeing how Bree was able to like get him out of his shell and show him that he's a good man, and he doesn't need to be afraid of people and try to be in the background. He deserves his spotlight. So 4.75, really good. I do plan on doing a reread of this just because it was a really good read. I really did enjoy this. Last Letter. This was again in will this book make me cry? And this one I gave 4.5 stars. I really think I think this is probably more of a 4-star book because this book still angers me. I have a whole spiel on why I did not like this book. So I like this book up until 85%-ish. Once there's like in my mind, at the end of the book, around the 85 to 90% mark, something happens that makes 0 sense. It wasn't necessary. It put trauma in a book that did not need it. Like, what Rebecca Yarros did in this book at that piece or at that part of the story, if she would have left it out, it would have been a great book. Like, it didn't do anything to the storyline. It was just unnecessary. And I hate it. I still hate it. I still think about how it infuriates me. So I have on my Goodreads that this is, actually I have this on my Storygraph, I should say, as a 4.5. This really probably is only a 4 because it's still to this day, and I read this at the beginning of April-ish. I still to this day do not like it. I don't like the way that the story took, and it was not necessary. would have been a great book if that part was left out. So I'm going to say this is a 4-star, but on my story graph it says 4.5. I'm going to say 4 though. And then after I read The Last Letter, I did pick up my first Sarah Adams book. This is When in Rome. This is a cute little 200-page little romance. This is about a like pop star that decides she wants to, you know, kind of disconnect, and she ends up driving to the closest Rome to where she lives in Tennessee, and she ends up going to Rome, Kentucky, and her car just happens to break down in front of the MMC's house, and so he sees her stranded on the side of the road, has her come into his house, stay the night, so that way, you know, she has some place to go while they're getting the car fixed. And then lo and behold, a little small town country boy and a very well known, very popular pop star have a little relationship. So I did enjoy this. This was a very cute book. This was my first Sarah Adams book, and it definitely, so this is also a book, it's a romance, but it's a fade to black romance, so you don't really get the graphic details for any of the smut scenes. So if you are looking for a romance that's not spicy, this is definitely your choice. I gave this 3.5 stars. I think it was because I just wasn't connected to the characters because it was so small. I think that's going to be a given for any book that you don't have a lot of pages to, because the less pages, the less chance you have of connecting to the characters. And that's kind of what I felt like. So it was good. It was 3.5. So I am going to go forward and read some more Sarah Adams because I did enjoy it. It just wasn't, I didn't have that connection to either character. We have City of Bones. This is the book 1 of the Mortal Instruments. This is kind of the kickoff of the Shadowhunter like world. I did read this already. I was wanting to do a reread of this so I can get back into the Shadowhunter world, but I didn't have a chance to pick it up. So this will be read eventually. But I did really enjoy the Shadowhunter series, like as a whole. The Cassandra Clare Shadowhunter world, I have enjoyed pretty much every single book that she has written. So I just wanted to go back to the beginning and start all over again. Didn't read, but I will read again in the future. Katie Robert, Electric Idol. This is book 2 of the Dark Olympus series. This was if I felt like having a dark romance on hand that I wanted to pick up during the month of April. I had this book, was my go-to, and I ran out of time and I just didn't have a chance to pick this up. But I am planning on reading this. I didn't have enough time for the month of April. Atlas 6, I said in my TBR video that this book scares me, and it still scares me, and I still haven't read it. I will read it. It's just a matter of when will I read it. That is the question you should be asking. But I did not read it. I do want to. I didn't pick it up. And then the last book was The Red Scholar's Wake. This was a book that I wanted at the time to read, but as soon as I started reading the other books, this no longer interests me. So, and it still to this day doesn't really interest me. I'm not really a sci-fi-ish type person. And so, I mean, this is fantasy, but it just, I don't know. I don't know what it was. It hasn't grasped my attention. And so I did not pick it up in April, but it is on my bookshelf and I do plan on reading it at some point. It is a little small romance, so it should be a fairly quick read, but I just couldn't get to it in April. So that was all of the books I read in the month of April. Now, looking at my story graph, that is how many books? I read 11 books in the month of April, and that was how many pages? How many pages did I read? So that was 11 books and 4,922 pages in the month of April. So very good reading month. And I'm very excited that I got done with some of the books that I finally was able to read. They've been on my shelf for a while, and I was very excited in April to finally get them done. So now let's talk about May. So for the last, I don't know, several months, I have been using my TBR prompts, like my card deck, to choose the books that I want to read for that particular month. This month, I'm not going to be using those. And the reason is, in the month of April, there were a lot of new releases that came out that I have that I want to read. So I want to read the new releases that just came out because I am dying to read them. That would include Funny Story, that would be Wild Love, that would be Just for the Summer, and Powerless, I think, is in the mail today. It should be delivered. But I have those 4 books, and I want to say there's another one. I think there's another one that I really wanted to read that came out in April that I haven't had a chance to read. So I want to focus on those books because I have been dying to read them. So instead of me picking my TBR prompts for my books, this month I'm just going to be going off of my mood. So we're going to be hitting up new releases. I have some dark romances that I've been interested in reading that I have downloaded on my Kindle. So I have some dark romances that I have already kind of identified that I want to read. And I feel like doing a bunch of mood reading for this month. So I don't really have, other than those new releases that I just talked about, I don't have any books that I want to show you that I want to read this month. I do plan on having some videos of me reading these books. So that will be coming. If you want to see videos of me reading these books, definitely make sure that you subscribe to my channel and kind of keep an eye out for those uploads. But other than that, you're just gonna have to wait till the end of the month to see exactly what I read. I'm excited. I feel like having a good mood read. And I feel like there's a lot of books on my shelf that I really want to read. And I might end up picking up some of the books that I did not read in April. That might be part of my May TBR. We'll just have to kind of see how it goes. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Let me know down below, what are the month of May? Like, what books are on your radar? Like, what are you zoning in on that you want to read in the month of May? Like, what is your top book that you want to finish in May? I would be interested. Is it the new releases that just came out in April? Is it another book that you've just been dying to read that you just haven't read in a while, or you haven't read at all? So let me know down below. I'll be interested to see what your most anticipated read in May is going to be. What is it? I'm curious. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I will see everybody in my next video. Bye.